Okay, I'd like to begin this series that I'm calling The Life of an Order. We will explain the differences between AVO 1 and AVO 6 orders. Then we're going to go into T code I Whiskey 31 and create an AVO 6. We will then go over how to edit the AVO 6 using I Whiskey 32. We will briefly check the funding status using ME5 Alpha and talk about the aviation tech supply workbench. From there, we'll get the reservation number and we will get our roll document from ZRRR. We will check the status of our roll document using ZEDF, and we will track that same requisition using VL33 November. So what is an AVO 6 and what is an AVO 1? If you want to understand the difference between an AVO 6 and an AVO 1, it's best to connect them to forms that you're already familiar with. So an AVO 1 is equivalent to a 13-1 or an aircraft fault. In GCSS Army, it will be denoted by two different things. AVO 1, and then your order number will start with 800. And that's how you can tell that's an AVO 1. And those are transferred over from ACN. So the mechanic puts it in ACN, and then PC approves it, and then it goes through the VSAT into the cloud, down to G-Army, and will show up in the Tech Supply Workbench and in Z-Sabre, which is what I have open here, as an 800 series order number. Now, AVO 6 is a little bit different. You can equate it to a 2407 work order. However, with AVO 6, it can come in two different ways. You can put it, mechanic can put it through an ACN just like a AVO 1. PC approves it, and it'll go through like the backshops module into the workbench on G-Army, and it'll appear as a 600 series order number. Or what's more common, at least for now, is that in the tech supply office, to circumvent's kind of a bad word, but to circumvent some of the shortcomings with the ACN to G-Army transfer system or VSAT issues or whatever your unit has going on, you can create an AVO 6 order to skip the ACN portion of ordering. And we'll get into how to do that actually in the next block after this. So important takeaways from this: AVO 1 is equivalent to 13-1 and is denoted by an 800 series work order or order number. And then AVO 6 is equivalent to 2407 and is denoted by 600 series. So this is Z-Sabre. You can see the T code down here at the bottom. This is the support analysis based equipment report, and I'm going to use this to display open AVO 6s and AVO 1s under a given UIC to just show you the difference in the order number. So order type, I want to put in AVO 6 and AVO 1, and then in Work Center I'm going to put my UIC. You would obviously put yours. I'm going to just do open, so I'm not going to give it a date range, but you can do a lot with the amount of input blocks here. So some T codes will have a lot of blocks, and there's only a certain amount that are mandatory, and then some will have a lot of blocks that only one will be mandatory, but it'll tell you what the minimum requirements are for that T code. So let's run this. So you can see here in ZSabre, it's got the main work center, which should be your UIC. Here's the order number, and then there's some additional data to include the title or the description of your AVO 6 order. And then in here as well, these are AVO 1s as denoted by the 800 series number. Okay, so now that we've gone over a brief overview of the differences between AVO 1 and AVO 6 orders, I'm going to show you how to create an AVO 6 order in GArmy using the T code iWhiskey31. Once that's complete, I will show you how to go in and edit that same AVO 6 order using the T code iWhiskey32. So we're going to begin by entering in India Whiskey 31, and that's going to bring up create aviation maintenance request. You're going to input AVO 6 here in the order type and hit execute. And then the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to create a name or a description for it. Now there's a lot of different things that you can put in here. There's really no rhyme or reason that I'm aware of. So you can use this block for a lot of different things. You can put tail number information in here. You can put POC information. Really whatever you want, that's going to help you identify where it needs to go when it comes in. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to write test. So input your name, and then the next thing you want to do is go to main work center, and you want to enter in your UIC. So I'll put mine in there. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to assign it a priority. Now there was a recent change that just came out a few days before the posting of this video where in order to assign it a high priority, it has to have a text status of X or E, which is administrative deadline, which isn't really going to apply to aviation material, or circle X. Now we'll get into how to do all that here in a second, but for the sake of this example, I'm going to make this a high priority. So priority 1 is high, which would equate to O2, seeing that aviation is all FAD 2. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to assign it to a piece of equipment. You can just click in the equipment block here and then click on the expanded search blocks to the right there. And in the serial number with no dashes, just put in your tail number or component serial number if you're doing component work, but we're going to do this for an aircraft. So it's an aircraft. Select the aircraft. In project code, now this is going to be situationally dependent, but because this example is going to be an AOG, I'm going to put AOG in the block there. Your fund code is going to be dependent on however your brigade SPO has things set up. And then leave RDD blank here just for a second. So this is initially just the admin data for this AVO 6 order is all input in here. After that's complete, you go to this piece of paper next to notification, and you click that and just acknowledge that. In this notification type, you're going to want to put Alpha Fox AF, but if you hit this expanded search button, it has a whole list of different things you could use. For this, we're creating an aviation fault. Don't worry about the block number, just leave that blank and continue. Then it's going to bring you into this iWhiskey31 screen. And it's got different pieces of data for this piece of equipment. Unique item identifier is here, and you can put an expanded description down here, but it's not required. And then the really important part here is text status. You click this little check mark pencil icon, and because this is an AOG order, I'm going to click the X, and then I'm just going to back out, and I will back out again. Now it's assigned a notification. My serial number is loaded. Now I can put my 999 RDD because I am OCONUS and this is an O2 order. And then from here I go to the Components tab and I will enter in all of the NINs that I want to order under this Avio 6. Some important things that aren't required for every order, but they could be important for certain orders, is this recipient block here. What you can use it for is you can put advice codes in here. So if I wanted a 2 Bravo advice code to be applied to the order, I would put it in this goods recipient block. If not, if you don't need to put an advice code, you can leave it blank, or you can assign it to a certain section. Say there are multiple NINs required for this one work order. Some are going to some shop and some are going to another. You can assign it in here. Again, not required, but it is something you can do. For now, I'm going to leave this blank. Once you have all your NINs that you want to assign to this Avio 6 loaded onto this screen, just go ahead and hit enter, and it'll ask you to acknowledge this again. And then it could throw up a few different dialog blocks here. This one is just getting me to acknowledge that the unit of issue is 100, but I can switch to each if I would like to. I'm going to keep it at 100 because I keep it at 100, so I'm just going to acknowledge that. Once you get to here, you hit the release button to release the order, and then you hit the save button. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So release, the system status changes to released here. Before it said CTR, which is created, and then I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now it's created an order. This order number, it's a 600 series number. This is my order number that I will use later on when we get into the tech supply workbench to get the reservation number. Well, we haven't got to that yet. So for now, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it somewhere. Okay, so now that we've created our iWhiskey31 Avio 6 order, say you need to add something to it, or you want to change the quantity, or you want to change the fund code. You want to change anything on the iWhiskey31 Avio 6 order, you're going to go to iWhiskey32. Because GArmy recognizes that this is the last order that I worked on, it automatically loaded it. But if you get out of GArmy and come back in, you're going to want to have this order number handy to reference it. Once you put your order number in and you execute it, it's going to bring you back to this. Now, anything that isn't grayed out, you can change. Like I can change the priority, I can change the serial number, I can change the fund code, I can change the project code, the RDD. I can go into the components tab, I can add, I can change quantities, I can do any modification to this order that I would like. The important thing to do though, when you're done, is to hit save. Because I don't want to actually modify this, I'm going to back out and then I'm going to hit no, but you would hit save. Okay, so now we have created our AVS6 using iWhiskey31. We have gone through and we made edit changes with iWhiskey32. Now I'm going to show you on the tech supply workbench, which is T code ZAVTS, how to find that order and what everything in here means. So go to my little scratch pad here, and you saw that I deleted the word accepted because that filters it down to just accepted, so I clear that out. Paste your order number in the block that says order number and hit execute. So what this does, this dashboard for tech supply, this shows you everything to do with that order. Okay, I'm going to show you some important takeaways from this screen. There's a lot more to it, and we'll get into that in another video, but for the sake of this one, these are important takeaways. So this is your parts request status. It's processed. It's not funded. This would normally go to ZPark, but I'm going to show you why it won't here in a second. And this reason why it won't go to ZPark trips a lot of people up. Here's your order number again. Here's your order status. That REL is released. This is identified on my mat sit or material situation as bench stock. Here's your NIN. Material number means NIN. Material description is nomenclature. The required quantity from my order that I placed through, this order number, I listed as 100. Remember, I did 1 HD, but it breaks it out to the each, so 100. On hand quantity, I have 400 on my mat sit currently. Why this won't go to ZPark is because I have created a work order that says that I need 100, but I have 400 on hand. So in order to satisfy this work order, G-Army is going to force me to issue from this 400. A lot of people miss this, and they're wondering why their orders aren't going to ZPark. It's because their required quantity is less than or equal to their on-hand quantity. So I'm asking G-Army to provide me with 100 in order to complete this work order. It's telling me that I have 400, therefore I can satisfy this work order with my on-hand quantity. So nothing will push to ZPark. If I didn't actually have the 400 on hand, I would need to rectify my mat sit, and there's a few different methods for that, before any of these work orders for this NIN would push to ZPark for funding. Okay, that being said, let's move on. This block here will show you alternate NINs on hand as long as they're linked. This is a cotter pin, a 7332 cotter pin. There is no alternate, therefore it says 0 alternate on hand. A lot of your shop stock items, not all but some, have alternate NINs that are linked together. So if I requested a certain NIN that I didn't have, but I had the alternate quantity on hand, it would show it here. Withdrawal quantity, so if I issued 50 from my on-hand quantity to this work order, it would display that I withdrew 50 of my 400 to satisfy half of this requirement here. This serial number was back on the iWhiskey31 screen where I entered the serial number for the aircraft. It gets it from there. Model helicopter, same place. And then this number here is our reservation number. Okay, this will be our reference number when we go to ZRRR in order to find our national level rollover document number. Obviously for this reservation, it hasn't gone to ZPark and it won't, and then I'm also going to delete it. It will not get a rollover number, and when we get to that point, I'll just use one that already exists. So how I can get rid of this is I can highlight the line, I can delete the part. It is now deleted. The important thing is to go back through your work order and close it out. So how you can do that without going too far down the rabbit hole is I can go back to iWhiskey31. By the way, /O and then a T code will open a second window. I'm sorry, I wanted to go to iWhiskey32. And then I want to first ensure that the component tab is clear, which it is. And then I want to technically complete the work order. Okay, so now that we have created our order, we've edited our order, I've showed you how to get the reservation number in the workbench. We talked briefly about how to navigate the workbench. Now we're going to use our reservation number in order to do a few different things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to T code ZRRR and that is requirements review report. We're going to paste our reservation number there. Now keep in mind, this is not the reservation number that we just created. This is a reservation number for an order of mine that I know has shipped and has arrived. So it's a good example of something to go all the way through the rest of our agenda. So reservation number there, execute. Okay. So reservation number, order number, the date that it was ordered, your NIN, SLOC, storage location. Here's your PR, which is what we're going to grab real quick. And then I'm going to go quickly into the T code ME5 alpha, and I can use this to check the funding status and history of that item. So back to ZRRR. Purchase order. Let's keep going. And then you start getting into the SSA information. Here's your 45 series PO, which is the SSA's PO. And then what's important here is your rollover document. So we'll copy that one there. And we're going to do /O to open another window. and we will do ZEDF, which is Extended Document Flow. Down here in the DoD document number block, we will paste our rollover document number and hit execute. And this is going to give us a few different things, right? So it's going to give us our roll doc here. It's going to give our NIN, nomenclature, the order date. This is the date of the rollover document number. This delivery date, it's based off an algorithm. Don't trust it. The guys have been around for a while. They know not to trust this. It doesn't mean anything, or at least it doesn't mean anything to me. It's just based off of an algorithm. And then you can keep scrolling over here, and then if you have a transportation control number, or like if your item is shipped, it'll be down here. And then you can also tell that it is shipped because it has this IBD inbound document SSA resupply number. So what we're going to do now is we're going to track this part by double clicking the TCN. This brings us to T code VL33 November, and it's got some basic information on the front screen here, but what we're going to do is we're going to track this. So if you click status overview, and then you have your IBD number here again, you're going to double click that number, and then you're going to click the shipping status tab, and then it's going to have all the same information that IGC would list for this item. So it gives the entire travel history from, so this one was DLA Jacksonville, Florida, all the way to our SSA here at Wheeler. And if you scroll over, see, that's what you want to see. You want to see, so SCAC is standard carrier alpha code. That's going to be, the company, the transportation company. And some of those you can Google them to get a phone number and get a hold of somebody if you really have to. But the good one to see is FDE, because that's FedEx Express. So from here, you can copy your FedEx number, and you can throw it into FedEx and track it from there. And it will never change. So it will never go from FedEx to a different ground carrier. So once you have that FedEx number there, you don't even need to come in here at all to track that part anymore. You can track it all the way to the mechanic's hand using FedEx site. So that's pretty convenient. Back to the ZEDF main screen here. You say this hasn't shipped yet, you can go in, double click that document number, and you can actually see the processing history of that part. So it was Bravo Mike from AJ2, and don't worry, like you'll pick up on what all these things mean. Kind of, if you're a newer tech supply officer, I know a lot of this sounds like gibberish, but yeah, give it a couple months and you'll pick up on it. To BA, which is released, and then I don't know why they had to tell me that B7 denotes a price change. I don't know why they wanted to tell me that after it was released it price changed, but that doesn't matter. So actually, while we're on the topic of B7, when you see B7, it doesn't require any action on your part. So you're going to see B7, and you're going to think that generally you're going to see it with your old back orders. The fiscal year changeover, they're going to change to B7. You're going to think that it requires you to do something. It doesn't. It's a finance action. So don't worry about B7. It doesn't mean anything to you. All right, so then we trace this, and we already had our FedEx number, so that one's good to go. So to recap, I briefly explained the differences between AVO1 and AVO6 and what they mean to you. We went over creating an AVO6 in iWhiskey31. Once we did that, we went in and edited our AVO6 using iWhiskey32. We really briefly checked the PR status using ME5 alpha. We took our reservation number and got our roll document from ZRRR. Then we took that roll document and checked the status of the requisition in ZDF. And then when we were in ZDF, we had that requisition that shipped. We were able to track the shipment data in VO33 November. So this is my first video that I've made. I plan to make a bunch more. They'll get better as time goes on. So if there's any suggestions from the field, just let me know. I'm only going to be able to talk about stuff that I have experience with, but this will force me to get better as well in order to help teach. My target audience, again, for this is newer tech supply officers, 92 alphas, and alike, but I think anyone could benefit from this. So let me know what you think. Thanks.